It's time for Against the Spread. And it's brought to you by our friends at DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Roy, kick us off.
Devils at Blue Jackets tonight. I got a weird stat for you here. The Devils have failed to cover in 9 straight night games versus opponents on a losing streak. The Blue Jackets on a 3-game losing streak. The Devils just lost to the Penguins 7-3 on Saturday. The Blue Jackets are underdogs in this game by a goal and a half.
It begs the question, could you find a stat for anything?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was an oddly specific stat.
I know. It's ridiculous. And because of that stat, I'm going Blue Jackets tonight as the underdog, a goal and a half underdog.
Against the spread. You're not worried they've run out of gas? They've been one of the nicer stories in the sport, but
they're dealing with injuries.
They look totally listless.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is a night game.
It is a night game.
That's not good analysis.
What?
That was, actually.
It is a night game?
It's making me stay away from the game. I know that was the opposite of the intention, but the form is so bad from the Blue Jackets.
I don't think that Roy
back.
made a very convincing argument for what it is that he's asking us to bet.
No. It's a night game. And New Jersey can't beat a team that's on a losing streak.
Okay.
He was a good point by Roy.
Now we go to Billy for our Anaheim Ducks pick of the week.
We've been flying high together. You know what they say, ducks fly together, and we have been hot when we have been picking the Ducks. 4-0, I believe, this season on Ducks games. It's always a 1.5 goal spread there, and the Ducks aren't always winning, but they're always covering. But, friends, I hate to disappoint you. Tonight, I'm not taking the Ducks. The Ducks aren't playing tonight.
Well, all right,
Instead, I'm going to switch things up a bit. Guys, I don't know if you heard. MLB starts tomorrow. Big series. These are games that everybody marks down on their calendar. They say, I can't wait for these games. The season's officially starting, and everyone's excited about these games. Everybody cares. They count. That's what we've been saying around here all day long. So, Dodgers are at the Cubs in Tokyo, but they're still the road team. Yamamoto is taking on Imanaga. But I think the story of the day should be no surprise to anyone. Shohei Ohtani. That guy, guys, is a rock star in Japan. I don't know if you caught on to this.
Pretty good.
Well, you saw what was going on this past weekend. So they had some games. They had, the Dodgers were playing a team there, and the Cubs were playing a team there, and they had split it up. It was kind of like a doubleheader situation. They couldn't get the fans out because Shohei was playing in the first game. They said, guys, you gotta skedaddle, get out of here. The second game, you don't have tickets for these games. Couldn't clear out the stadium. People love Shohei Ohtani over there in Japan. So for that reason, I'm going to take the Dodgers minus 1.5 tomorrow against the Cubs at Chicago, at Tokyo, against the spread.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Just a runaway freight train of gibberish.
4-0. Ducks fly together.
Yeah, well, you didn't
They've been
give
money.
us
They've been
anything
money.
on
I've
the
been
Ducks.
tailing. They did lose yesterday, but he didn't make a pick for yesterday.
Not yesterday's game.
Chris Cody, did I hear you under your breath ripping Jay Williams in the other room?
Well, this is bracket season, Dan. This is everybody. What's their bracket? Who they got? Who's their Final Four? What's their upset pick? I am just looking for experts that I can copy their picks. I saw Clark Kellogg has Clemson going far. Boom, Clemson going far in my bracket. But not Jay Williams. He's zagging while others zig. All ones and two seeds in his Elite Eight, which might end up being right. It's one of those things. You think you got to overthink it. Sometimes you don't. Yeah. But it's like, Jay Will, go on a limb. Give me something.
Chris, I literally just filled out my first women's NCAA tournament
all
bracket.
Ones and twos?
Yeah, I mean.
Got to find your 3 or 4, though.
I have.
The women's game.
Not in women.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Chalky.
Except LSU. I mean, they were a 3 seed when they won, weren't they? Yeah. It's only like 2 years ago.
Working a 3. Come on.
I have a Final Four right now that is so chalk. Wow. I have UConn upsetting USC in the Elite Eight and making the Final Four, but then I have UCLA, South Carolina, and Texas. I'm like, I don't feel good about this.
No, but you should feel good about it. The women's game isn't madness this time of year. Like the top 20.
I don't even like South Carolina like this much, but I just don't see them losing to North Carolina or Duke.
If you win with your bracket, you're going to split it with like 17 other people in your pool.
Well, that's the thing.
Also, I mean, last year when I filled out my women's NCAA tournament bracket, I was like, if I go all chalk, I'm going to win this thing. No, I don't. I lost by 1,000,000 points. There are people that are very good at getting these first round games right, like the 8s and 9s and everything. It's not me, okay? It's not me. I even have Notre Dame losing in the second round here, which would be a huge upset to Michigan, I believe.
Why'd you do that?
Shut the front door.
Why are we shutting the front door?
Because I said
Because
last
it's
night, they've really petered out at the end of the season.
Is
I
this
don't
a
feel
size thing? Does Michigan have size on them?
they do have a good freshman, but a big, but so does Notre Dame. So it's not a size thing. It's Notre Dame just petering out, and this is me protecting my, emotional hedging right now.
This all begs the question, what is the perfect amount of brackets to fill out?
Are we begging that question?
Some people wonder, do you just fill out one? If I fill out multiple, am I doing the same results in every bracket? Peter Burns had a theory that you fill out 3. Right when it comes out, you just poop one out.
That's this one.
And then your
really
second
pooped
one
it
is
out.
you think about it. You look at matchups. You dissect. You really crunch the numbers. That's number 2. And number 3, you go with your heart. Yeah. You just what you want to happen. So you fill out 3 different brackets, and you see what's what at the end.
I wish the bracket makers went with their hearts and were cognizant of the fact that we could have a UCLA-USC rematch in the Final Four and a South Carolina-Texas rematch, which is literally like what we just did last weekend. Like if all of the 1 seeds make it, that would be so annoying. Why did they do that? Flip them around.
I wanted to ask you guys a question about Stephen A. Smith and Larry David, but before I do that, I wanted to tell you a story from my home this morning, and I wanted to ask you guys what you think of it. None of you are cat people, correct?
Hell
There's nobody in here.
I love cats, but I don't have one.
Go Cats.
I'm a dog.
So I've always been a dog person, and I've never had much of a relationship with any cats. My family did have one for 20 years, but it was outdoors, and it wasn't the connection that I have with dogs. But my wife is a cat person, and so I have inherited 2 cats that now boss around a pit bull, and I see their personality, and it's been delightful to get to love cats. The old one, a gray old cat, was on the kitchen table the other day, and when my wife looked up, that cat had a piece of her breakfast in its mouth and isn't supposed to. A piece of avocado. They don't even like avocado. I don't know what she was doing. And my wife, who I've never seen the side of her at this old gray lady, shouted at. And the question I wanted to ask you guys.
They usually are.
Well, but I thought I almost use ass exclusively for males. That Otis is an ass. The other cat is an ass, but I just don't think of ass as someone that gets something that gets. We were talking before about quarterbacks and whether a quarterback can be too confident, be an ass. I don't think of that as something I say toward women. Am I being do you often call women ass, females ass?
Well, it was a cat.
I know, but she was calling a female cat an ass. And it felt wrong to me, and I just started wondering whether that was a male, whether I was somebody who was just doing ass exclusively for males.
I've called my wife an ass before. Remember last week when I said that she wouldn't let me get ice cream after 8:30 with my daughter? I called her an ass when she did that. Yeah.
All cats are ass, though.
Yeah.
They're
Like
jerks.
I
would describe them as jerks.
Every last
No,
one
they're
of
all
them.
ass.
All evil.
That's like a feature, not a bug.
I don't go with ass when I'm angry with a woman because there's so many great other words that are gender specific to call them.
I believe women can be ass.
You all have one.
Thank you, Roy. That's
This
excellent.
is one of your weird gender blind spots, Dan.
There's a
First
B,
of all,
another one.
you
C.
shouldn't call women anything, but also you can call them ass.
Let's not
Just
wait
never
for
have.
dinner.
Just never have. Speaking of which, this is an awkward transition.
Wait, can I ask you a
Transition.
question
Yeah,
about your
let's go.
cat before you transition real
There's
quick?
a
You said
T-word.
you inherited them. Do you is it like if you're like a stepdaddy, do you then adopt the cats also so that you're the cat's daddy? Or no? Like real kids? Can you adopt a cat that's already been adopted?
What are you asking me? Because
So when you get married and you have stepchildren, right? Like sometimes the step parent will adopt the children, and
this
then
is a
it's
bit
like
of
this
this would be a step pet scenario.
Yeah,
I think.
step pet.
W word.
Do you consider them yours?
Did she
Yeah.
have the
Or
cats
hers?
before you were around? Like,
Do they
Are you
feel
like,
you're-
get your cat out of
Yeah.
here? Or
There's
are
an
you like,
S
this is
word.
our
Is it
cat?
our cat now? Like, are you
He's
the
trying to call
daddy?
you a cat daddy.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think they are her cats, but I have absolutely grown to love them. So
So
what does
like
that
they're
mean?
yours, but you haven't
guess.
done the formality of adopting them.
No, I don't have any
Oh.
paperwork. They are, and nor do I feel about them the way that she feels about them because I cannot reach those heights. They are not mine.
Well, they can be. That's why you go
Well, but
adopt them.
I think
but
you just answered your question.
yeah,
Billy.
geez, that's sad.
These are about my limits, though. This makes me a step pet dad because she had them
step pet
before
dad
me.
who
Isn't
stepped
that
up.
why you asked the question?
No,
Chris?
but like if you become a stepdad, those children obviously were there before you go in and you marry the person and you become the stepdaddy. So I'm just wondering if like that's a thing that can happen when you marry someone that has pets that you then, view. Do you view them as your like kitties?
Well, you've asked this again, and I view them as hers. And why do you make that sound? I
It's
don't
just
understand.
sad.
Why
for,
is
for
that
them?
sad?
If they
really.
were children, would you love them?
Yeah.
I
They
do
were her
love them. Wait a
children.
minute. Why are
But
you
the way
making
you're
this-
saying it sounds
But
like
you don't love them enough.
yeah, like they feel lesser than.
You could love them more.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
I would say, I don't know. Are you and your significant other, the way that you love is exactly equal in strength? I believe my wife is capable of greater loves than I am. I believe my wife has fewer limits as it regards love than I do. I believe her love is bigger than mine. So
I think that Lee and I are equally dead inside, which is why it kind of works.
That's good.
Yeah.
You should get a cat.
Why do you have a limit to your love? Why can't you love the cats more?
I have found that over the length of this relationship, I have learned that my love is less limited than I thought it was. But when I met her, I was a certain kind of limited, and since then, I've noticed that the way she feels about the cats is stronger than the way that I do.
That's just a cat thing. I'm with you. Like I've had family cats that I'm just like, yeah, I like the dog way more.
Yeah.
Like my parents have had multiple cats, and I don't touch them. We just say hello. Just a pass by relationship.
Also, like counterpoint, I would say, just based on the story you told us, like you've never called the gray cat an ass. So like that could you could be capable of more love. You're calling yourself Mr. Limited. I say we go to Mr. Unlimited here in terms of like the love that you can give the cats. But also, when you reach the level of love, you also can reach that level of hate that you probably can't reach with the cats also, where you couldn't bring yourself to calling the cat an asshole because you don't seem to have that passion one way or another towards the cat.
I know that Mike and Jessica both have relationships with animals, and do you and your spouse feel
What'd you just call her?
exactly the same about your pets? Is your amount of love for the pet exactly the same?
In my household, I think so. I think we both love big. Now, the dog does not reciprocate.
I was going to
The
say
equal
the
amount of
same
love.
thing. Yes, I think Lee and I we love Willow dearly to death, but she really, really likes Lee.
Because animals
Really
aren't
likes
smart,
Lee.
so that they aren't smart
Whoa.
enough to like balance out.
Wait a
Like
minute,
they just
man.
play favorites. They're like, yep, I like that person a lot more.
It often is tied to when they feed me. When is this feeding session
Yeah.
happening? How early did this person catch them in the feeding cycle? That's at least what I tell myself, as opposed to
What can I get away with?
Wait, Roma likes Cynthia
Roma
more?
likes Cynthia more.
They like people that can get away with stuff. It's like kids. Like my daughter likes my wife more because she can get away with more.
Opposite for
You're
us,
the
though,
disciplinarian?
because Lehman's the disciplinarian, and she really respects him. She does not respect me at all because I let her do whatever she wants.
A lot of it is tied to feeding time.
But they also both adopted those animals together, like while they were a unit with their significant others. So it's not like Jessica's coming in and Lee had
Right.
Willow beforehand.
Although Billy, we adopted Willow, and then I moved to Miami like 6 months later, and Lee and Willow stayed in New York for like a year and a half because of work. So we were me and Willow were long distance for about a year, and I think she really resents me for it. We've never gotten over that hurdle.
To be clear, when you accuse me of loving less because I'm a step pet dad, those animals are also clearly hers. They behave with her in a more loving fashion that they behave with me. So when they get a lesser love from me, it is reciprocating their lesser love of me because they were hers before I met them.
Fine, so you have a transactional, emotional relationship with your cats?
You need to be the bigger person here, Dan. You're the only person in this equation with the cat, but you need to be the bigger person and say, you know what, I'm going to love you unconditionally whether you love me or not.
But that's the thing. Not all cats like that.
Really?
Like Chris was describing about seeing the cat and just being like sup and then walking away.
Yeah.
Like
Just walk
that's-
by, a little head nod.
Yeah.
Also-
that's cat companionship for a lot of cats. That's all you need to do.
Paul McCartney's rule of love does not apply to cats. They're a strange breed. The love that you make is not equal to the love that you take.
I think that you might need to have like cat dates. You know what I mean? Like to kind of establish your relationship with the cats independent of your wife's relationship with the cats. Because it seems like that's really what's going on here is that like there's the relationship that Valerie has with the cats and there's the relationship Valerie has with you. And you and the cats are married together in this relationship because of Valerie. But in reality, you guys are all in this together and you're a cat family. Whether you wanted it or not, this is where we are. So I feel like maybe the way that we overcome this is that you have some you time with the cats, and then you guys can strengthen and form your own bonds. You have
My
your own little
relationship
inside
is
jokes.
fine with the cats. I don't need any more of your cat advice.
Okay.
My
I
relationship
feel like you
is
need
good.
to learn how to love. It
seems
sounds like
Yeah.
I'm
You
trying
don't
to
love
help
like
here.
Your wife
Yeah,
loves.
not
You have
helpful.
to want to open up
Self-reported over
and
here.
if we want to move on.
Yeah, not
I am happy
helpful.
for your blended family, though. It's not easy to
Yeah.
get cats and dogs to get along. Famously,
Well, we had an incident.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, look, this
it was a fight.
Oh my God, this was terrifying. Well, they have to establish that the dog was inherited, okay? And the dog, again, is a pit mix. This is actually very amusing because he's muscular. Everyone's scared of the dog. Everyone is scared of the dog except for these cats. So the incident actually was a dangerous one because the dog ended up biting Valerie on the leg while lunging at the cat. But so they have to sort it out, right? McGill was actually teaching us. In retrospect, this was a dumb decision. In retrospect, rescuing a pit bull mix with 2 cats in the house and territorial about space and having them have to have it out was a terrible idea. But the pit is now terrified of the orange cat because of the story I'm about to tell you, okay? We are giving medicine to the old gray bag of vacuum cleaner dust in her ear, and I go to put her down, and I didn't realize that the dog was there when I was putting her down. So the cat runs away from the dog, even though the dog hasn't done anything. The dog is just there. But the protector, the orange cat, the male cat, who thinks he's the boss of my house because he is, sees the gray lady run away, sees the terror, and then goes straight on to attack the pit bull, who doesn't know what it is that's happening because he's never seen this orange creature who's always been respectful behave this way.
Is your cat's name Gray Bag of Dust?
I'm starting to piece together what's going on here. You call one the orange one, and then you call the other one the old gray lady and the gray bag of vacuum dust.
Which one's the asshole?
I understand now the gray bag of vacuum dust, if I followed correctly earlier. I think what's going on here is you're refusing to give them names. Like, it's very simple. You have a male orange cat, Garfield. You have a gray, old cat. We'll figure out a name for that one. But like, if you give them names and you make them feel more than, then that improves the relationship.
You call one of them Otis?
One of them is Otis after Otis Redding, yes.
A good name. That's
and
a good
I've
name.
been
Good name.
avoiding the other one because I don't want to give the name because it's Foot, and it's a ridiculous name. And
That
I
is
don't want,
right.
and so I
Garfield
was
was
trying
right
to avoid
there.
that. Yeah, thank
Named
you,
after
but
Stugotz.
That's the other
when
one.
he said foot fault.
That's the
Named
other
after
one.
my old college football segment.
So
1 foot wasn't enough, huh? You're like 2 foots.
well, I knew that was coming, and it's what I was trying to avoid. Like that's
I like
that's
that name.
Precisely, that's why I called. I
Footfoot's a
just
good
knew.
name.
It's cute.
So you
yeah,
thought-
Footfoot's a cute name.
So you thought referring to them as a
Gray bag,
bag
of vacuum
of
dust.
dust would just
yeah.
like that one will.
I thought it
They
would
have
go
paws.
easier. Yes.
Footfoot's a good name. Don't feel bad about that. I like that name.
Papa's cute too, though.
I don't feel bad about
Meow,
that.
meow.
I was simply trying to avoid what I knew would be the feeding frenzy of you guys enjoying that.
My sister's
because,
cat's name is Kennewick.
Like I was trying to avoid just that. Like just that.
Anyway, so
No,
the
no,
bag
thank
of vacuum
you.
dust.
Yes,
the other one is Clovis.
I was trying to avoid all of the ways I know you guys to obviously not be helpful. And so I didn't successfully because I'm getting older and I've lost a step. And so I made it an old gray bag of dust. But what happened was, and you guys would have actually enjoyed the visuals of this because I don't still have the scratches on my arms, but I did for a while. I've never seen Otis, the orange one, this way because the orange one knew that this was a fight for dominance of the house. The pit bull did not know that that's what was happening. And I got between them. And it was a bad idea because then the cat charged me. And so what ends up happening is I'm holding the cat by the belly. That's the worst place to hold the cat. And the cat is also holding me by the arms, and we're both screaming at each other. And
It's another reason why I don't like cats. The claws.
You don't have the thumbs to do that.
What's the dog's name?
the dog's name is Early.
Oh,
This is
come
you
on.
being
A
helpful
pitbull,
again.
you name it Armando.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
right there.
Is that named after who?
Named after not Dan yesterday for the selection show.
You were late.
There
I was
a
logged in at
drawbridge,
5:45.
A
I was
boat.
like-
There's a whole thing.
Is this okay?
A boat and a train, not
Cuban
just
time.
not just a boat and a train.
Hey,
Jackie
Coach
Earl
L
Hurley.
was on time.
So was my father. I was just holding the cat and we were both screaming at each other. And for us, it was a draw, right? Okay, you get to be the man of the house, and that's me saying it to him, and it's also him saying it to me. And what got decided there is Early is no longer in charge around here, and my wife is bleeding, and that was all terrifying. And we had to keep them apart for several months because we didn't want that to happen again.
Oh, that's too bad, man.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Violence.
And now everyone gets along?
Yes, everyone's fine. Well, now Early will simply not. Otis will wait and stand in front of him and make Early turn his face and not look at him because he is now the dominant creature in the household. They had to fight it out in order to establish
This
that.
sounds unhealthy.
It didn't seem great while I was in it.
Not with all the blood.
I mean,
Are we past it now?
We were both. Yeah, well, I'll never forgive Otis for that. Like, I'll never forget it, I should say. I won't. It's not that I won't forgive it. It's now I have a healthier respect than I ever had.
Do you have Ron McGill on retainer to be
show up at your house.
Oh, he was very helpful during this. This
your
was
pet
terrifying.
whisperer?
I'm just picturing him sitting at the middle of the couch, like, all right, come here, kitty.
I'm just picturing him talking about like what cats do when they have sex. Like he's just not paying attention, just talking about animals
do that.
having
Let me
sex.
see your cat's vagina.
He'll do that April 13th if you want more cat vagina information. April 13th, PoppyDominoes.com, Sex and the Animals. He is breaking out what was in retirement and what has sold out every time he's done it for more than 20 years at Zoo Miami. PoppyDominoes.com is where you go if you want to play in the tournament or get general admission tickets. Or I should say, because this is all a fundraiser, all proceeds going to Ron McGill, you can go to the website and there's stuff you can buy if you cannot go to Bandshell because all of the money is going to go to Ron McGill.
Is Ricky as short as we make him look
No.
in this promo?
No, that is not accurate. Nor is my father's belly that big either.
Ron is also not this short relative to the two of those.
No, I don't know what
Ricky,
they did. Yes,
Poppy looking down at Ricky.
it's strange. This is not in any way accurate. My father's belly is not that either. But that's what we're going with in the promotional poster.
Don't forget Domino, the wrestler's got to be there too. He didn't make the graphic.
Wow.
The thing that I was saying about Stephen A. Smith and Larry David being courtside during that much ballyhooed LeBron confrontation, the thing that I wanted to ask you guys, dead seriously, does it seem to you like Larry David would enjoy Stephen A.'s company?
Yeah, it would. I mean, not what we know about his character. I'm sure if he was around him long enough, he'd come up with something that would bother him. But Larry David famously loves sports. I think he would revel in it.
I could definitely see them like kind of like grumbling under their breath to each other about basketball, right? Like sort of complaining back and forth.
About the Knicks? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I just would think that somebody who was bombastic, I don't know what Larry David gets along with, but I would assume it would just be other comedians. It would be other people who are actively having a sense of humor about everything or the process of being a comedian. Well, I've heard him talk to Conan O'Brien and others. Conan O'Brien has said when he comes over to parties at his house, like, what is the comfort level that I have to give you? And he's like, you got to give me at least 3 comedians or 3 comedy writers. Otherwise, I'm going to be a disaster. I'm not going to be good with those people. I'm not going to have a lot of tolerance for whatever the social setting is. But you guys think that sports is the great connector there?
Yeah. Their common bond of complaining for most of their lives about the New York basketball team, I think, brings them together.
You throw something at him just to get him riled up. You know what I mean? Like you say something, I know this is something that Stephen A. is going to really not like. And you say that just to see if you can get him going.
Well, you would enjoy doing that.
Yeah, of course. Why not?
You think that Larry David would enjoy riling up Stephen A. Smith?
Yeah, I do. I think he would enjoy that.
I also learned like one thing Knicks fans all sort of like have in common is they don't want your sympathy. Like they want to be like angry and like complain and annoyed, but like as soon as I am extending my like the other morning we woke up the morning after the Knicks Warriors game and I was like, oh man, I'm so sad the Knicks lost that game, and Lehman was like, get over it. I was like, oh jeez.
The cliche is misery loves company.
Exactly.
And both those guys are famously miserable.
You just gotta
about
be miserable
the
together.
Knicks.
That would be a good place to connect. When we were talking earlier about how competitive sports are and the lengths that athletes will go to in order to circumnavigate the health issues that are these tests on the body, I don't know how many of you noticed over the weekend that there was a very specific report that came out on Paul George. Jessica was talking about the pressure to perform and amid competitive people and amid aging. The Philadelphia 76ers have been the biggest disappointment in the league this year and one of the biggest disappointments in the history of the league over the last 20 years. Joel Embiid is now out for the season, but the specifics on the Paul George report I thought were interesting because they had one sentence of detail that can only really come from Paul George, which is 5 straight days before the All-Star break in order to play games, he took pain-killing injections. It was oddly specific to see in the report, and Paul George is under the immense pressure of this is the end of his career, the end of his relevance. He's gone to a team that had expectations. He created the expectations by being the missing piece, and now the whole thing has fallen apart. And he also had the pressure to play through all of the injuries that would result in 5 straight pain-killing shots in order to get on the court for the 76ers in a totally lost season.
I think he added the detail of when this happened because there was a lot of fan blowback to him posting himself on a relaxing vacation during the All-Star break. So if he frames it as, I was actually playing hurt, I needed this relaxation, people were just getting in his mentions for having a good time away from the sport. So I think that that's part of the intention there.
But what are the thoughts, though? I'm assuming that it's true, okay? Whatever the intention of it, Paul George and his people are trying to buy favor with, hey, this person's trying their hardest. The expectations are an enormous pressure to have when you're paid like him and Philadelphia has totally fallen apart all around you. So you're going to the extremity of caring so much that you are trying to mute your body's screaming 5 straight games and telling fans that in order to buy you what? Nothing is the answer, right? That fact buys him not one thing from one fan. Nothing. Correct? Am I wrong about this? That there is no amount of nuance that's going to be applied by a tolerant Philadelphia fan who's really upset by everything that's happened, who cares one iota that Paul George cares enough to take shots for 5 straight games in what would be the easiest situation to be like, I'm not playing anymore. What do I need to play for? For what?
I mean, it is a data point. I don't know how rational Sixers fans are about it, but I would say, well, he stinks, and I guess part of that is he's hurt, and that's why he stinks.
Philadelphia was supposed to be, when this season started, it wasn't Cleveland. There was going to be however many games better. What is it now? 7, 8 games. Cleveland finally had its 16-game winning streak broken by Orlando. And the Celtics don't look right, and no one cares, right? They barely beat the Nets. I enjoyed the call. I was listening to the call. Someone for the Nets named Wilson, and the announcer, he kept hitting threes, and the announcer on the radio just kept shouting Wilson like the volleyball in Castaway. But that game, Boston has been playing with its food all season, and we all, I think everyone listening to this knows that the dilution of the regular season has been such that no one listening to this actually believes that Cleveland will beat Boston once the playoffs come and once Porzingis and Drew Holiday and Derek White and everyone is out there so that the Celtics can just take 53s a game and you can watch Peyton Pritchard become the most heroic, loved player in the history of Boston outside of Larry Bird.
It's an advantage that a championship buys you, too. The notion that they know they've been to the heights, so they know exactly what they have to ratchet it up for, and we've seen them do it before, and it's not something that you could afford the Cleveland Cavaliers having their core not won anything.
It's funny, though, the way that we do that, because we haven't seen you do it, then we think you can't do it. We did that just to the Boston Celtics before they did it, and now they get to be the team. It's a silly way to do it.
It's what Josh Allen's going to be dealing with until he actually does it.
He
very well may be the second greatest quarterback ever, and we'll never know because he's always playing the greatest.
But the Sixers were supposed to be that. When we talked before the season about what the Eastern Conference was going to be, it wasn't Cleveland. It was Boston, Philadelphia, Milwaukee. They're the ones that have the stars. That's what you win with. It's not Mobley, Jared Allen, Garland, and Donovan Mitchell. No, you need stars, and Philadelphia was supposed to have them.
No doubt, it's been a disaster.
No, but not just a disaster, the biggest disaster in the league. There's not a bigger disaster than that one, and it may cost Daryl Morey his job, even though I don't know if it'll cost him his reputation, but Daryl Morey solidified his reputation as the guy who gets people when he landed Paul George. And so I present all of this to you to ask the group. 5 pain-killing shots. Athlete cares enough to be 20 games under 500, cares enough to take the 5 pain-killing shots and then to have publicly released that he took the 5 pain-killing shots. What does it buy him?
He's definitely looking like he did that when he canceled his podcast. The optics of, look, I need to lock in and be serious about basketball right now. So this is a guy that has struggled in the postseason. He's let the moment get to him before. I think he's just trying to find some alleviation a little bit, some decompression on from the stress that he's under right now.
We haven't done an F1 minute yet. I've erred in not doing an F1 minute yet. My apologies for not getting to this earlier. Jessica is the only one among us celebrating St. Patrick's Day. We've mentioned nothing about it. We have not mentioned anything about racing today either. Very excited. It's been how long? How long has it been? How many months has it been since we got the delirious speed of an F1 minute?
I mean, it's been several months. Chris, play the music. Because the end of last season, I didn't do one for every race. I was, saving it for the exciting ones. And this past weekend, Dan, Formula One was back, and it was exciting. And we are starting the season down under at the Australian Grand Prix. To catch you up, Lewis Hamilton is at Ferrari, now Carlos Sainz is at Williams. No one knows what a rookie driver is, and Max Verstappen is still the defending champion. It's yucky in Melbourne, and here we go. Oh no, before lights out, Isaac Hadjar has crashed his racing bull into the wall in the formation lap. Oh, so sad, so embarrassing. After a delay, the race can finally begin. Lando Norris keeps his lead on the first lap, but Max Verstappen is right behind him in second place. But oh no, another safety car. Jack Doohan's Alpine is into the wall just 6 turns into the race. Carlos Sainz is also out as well as Williams' debut. Verstappen can't keep up with Norris's blistering speed, and Piastri is in hot pursuit. Charles Leclerc's sea is full of water. It must be from all the water. But the slippery track is taking out everyone. Verstappen has the race lead, but it's another safety car. A small American man with an unshaven beard has wandered onto the track in Australia. He's muttering under his breath about NFL free agency, and the marshals can't get him to come home. Stugotz, come home. Lando Norris has won his first Australian Grand Prix, and Bernd Maylander is the driver of the day.
Wow. Where is Stugotz? I saw him. I saw a picture at a college baseball game.
He was wandering around on the track at the F1 race, Dan.
Wait, the driver of the day isn't the winner of the race?
No, it's the safety car driver. It was a joke. Oh. Because he did a lot of loops. Ah. Got it?
Yeah. No, but it's okay.
I wish I had that job.
So Baby Lando won.
Baby Lando did,
wow.
And the McLaren looks really good. Although the race was slippery. Now I'm getting more than a minute. The race was slippery, so we'll see what track conditions are like, next weekend. Yeah. But they looked really fast. He drove really, really well. They made the right strategy calls. It was a good day.
He's the car to beat this year. Yeah. That's crazy. Verstappen, I thought was just going to have it the sport, and now it's just Baby Lando. Jess told us first, 4 or 5 years ago about Baby Lando?
I sure did. Verstappen's still in the mix, though. We'll see how, But the McLaren looks good for the first weekend. Ferrari, not so much.
Good for Mr. Baby.
It is nice to have that speed and intensity of the segment at the end of the show here because I don't know if you guys saw this. It felt like a snort, a jolt of F1 speed. Did you guys see the Michigan baseball player who pantomimed the snorting of the third base line? I'm assuming he's stolen third base there.
I see that?
Is it a triple? He got a triple? That is.
Do we know he's doing that?
What do you mean, do we know if he's doing that? He's snorting the third base line. Like, what else?
Could be like a TikTok dance the kids are doing. We don't know.
Yeah.
All right, he's doing it.
It does seem like he's just snorting the third base line. That's what he's going for there, is he not?
Did he get in trouble? Are you allowed to do this? If this were Miami, he would have been suspended, right, Mike?
You know me and my persecution complex. I'd say absolutely.
Did he get in trouble there? I don't think there's an excessive celebration thing in baseball. There wouldn't be any reason to get in trouble there.
Also, he could say it's not what he's doing.
Yeah. It's college sports. They'll find a reason to get you in trouble.
He was screaming, "Get in the hole."
The eye black also, that's after a triple, right? That's what he's doing. He's sliding into third after a triple.
If that's a first to third, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Yeah. If that's a balk. It was actually a balk.
It can't be that.
It was a line drive. If you know what I mean.
Oh, wait, there you go.
Little baseball humor.
A Coke.
Did you guys see what happened in the Pistons-Oklahoma City game. Oklahoma City is going everywhere and beating everyone. And in the third quarter of the game against OKC, they got 5 technical fouls, and Cade Cunningham was ejected from that game where the Pistons were trying to show that they belong with the league's top team.
I saw that the Pistons coach, not
Bickerstaff,
not who Shaq thought it was I can't even remember which coach he thought
Chauncey
it was. Chauncey
Billups.
Billups, thank you. Not Chauncey Billups. Was very upset and was saying that the refereeing was very unfair, and I was curious if there was anything to that because I didn't watch the game.
Well, it wasn't unfair that was interesting about the criticism that he was levying. It was the level of disrespect he kept talking about, that he's insisting on behalf of his team. He's like saying, he's saying that it's above and beyond disrespectful for the Detroit Pistons. You saw that the Pistons Twitter account sent out after Shaq said he didn't know their players. They kept sending out tweets of Shaquille O'Neal being beaten by the Pistons in 2004, sitting on the bench next to Kobe, losing in 5 games. The Pistons are taking on the regional identity of a team that nobody is respecting correctly. It's one of the great sports cries that you get. And their coach, Bickerstaff, is saying, I'm not having here this level of disrespect where I'm going to stay silent and not protect my players while 5 technical fouls are being called and my star players being ejected at home. Come on. Like, that, we're not doing that one. We're not ejecting stars from big games at home because everyone's there to see the officials give out technical fouls. And the Pistons Cade Cunningham was cursing a lot.
I did see the Photoshop of Shane Gillis mashed up with Shea Gillis-Alexander.
Saw that one too.
I saw that. But that seems very entertaining and interesting, though.
Okay, you guys aren't interested at all. I can't get you interested in the Detroit Pistons no matter the angle that I try to take to get you interested in a fun and interesting basketball team.
I mean, I was interested. I also am interested in like the effect these green St. Patrick's Day goggles are giving me right now. This is what fish in the Chicago River must feel like on Saturday morning.
Yeah. There was at least, is it just Formula One? Because Josh Berry and Wood Brothers won at the Pennzoil 400.
Get your own bit.
Put your hat on. Put your hat on.
It's the height of winter, but it's also a great time to gather with friends and enjoy some Miller Lite. That's right, Miller Lite has the taste you can depend on. No games, no gimmicks, just that beautiful white can and a great tasting beer for people like you and me who love the taste of beer. Because Miller Lite is brewed for taste. It hits different than other light beers, with simple ingredients like malted barley for rich, balanced toffee note flavors and that iconic golden color that we all know and love. And here's the most important part for me. I mean, I like all the things, but 96 calories and just 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces, Miller Time is always a good time. The original light beer since 1975 and still the very best one. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Dan to find delivery options near you, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Tastes like Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
I guess when American football ends, everyone just assumes the sporting calendar slows down. This is a niche sport, Lollapalooza. I mean, I was locked in on. I had to have 4 screens yesterday. There's so many things going on, so many events I want to be at. Say you're watching the NBA and you see Larry David and Stephen A. Smith touching wood, and you're like, I want to touch some wood. Well, let me tell you somebody that can help you touch that wood. Game Time. The Game Time app. Yeah, you could see what the courtside seats would look like. I'm sure it's not too hard to imagine, but you could also see what your seats look like from the 400 level or 300 level. Any seat in the house. You have panoramic seat views thanks to the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code Dan. Get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. You get last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed, and I swear by this app, this is what I use. One of my favorite bands is in town this weekend. I'm going to be using Game Time to get some pit tickets to watch Deftones.
College tournaments going.
So many things going on. Homestead's in town. Miami people, if you haven't used the promo code Dan to save yourself some cash, go ahead and do it. One of the things that didn't make my screen last night was White Lotus. I've kind of checked out on this.
Whoa, that's it?
No, I haven't watched a single one, nor have I shown any interest in watching it because everybody told me that the season started a little slower. I did watch last season, but I also joined in progress, and I was kind of waiting for word of mouth.
to get to a point where I wanted to take part in the social commentary and not miss out. And a lot of people feel strongly about White Lotus. I know we got a lot of fans here, so I'm not going to give anything away. But the show started yesterday, apparently, with a scene with two actors I hold in very high regard. I love Walton Goggins. But another actor, an Academy Award-winning actor, shared a scene with him, and he appears to be a full-fledged member of the cast now, and this was not announced. This was a surprise, and there was like 20 minutes of shared time to lead off this episode, and I think I may be in. How do you feel about surprise cast members?
It was a surprise cast appearance, and I don't want to give anything away. Other than we already gave away that there is a surprise guest appearance. But if you know who the person is, you know anything about them, it makes total sense. Because of something about them that I cannot reveal without saying who the person is.
We're not going to spoil it. I believe the fairest criticism I've seen so far of White Lotus, wherever it is that you're saying slow, is they've had about 2 episodes worth of murder mystery they've tried to string out over 4 episodes, that there's just some fat in it that's unnecessary to make it hour-long, beautiful episodes of rich tourist landscape.
They could have really condensed some of the storyline. They added an episode this season because the first 2 seasons was like every day was an episode. And this season, this whole like lunar party or what full moon party, right? Yeah. They got its own episode, which is out of character. But they could have really like kind of like Jason Isaacs kind of know what is going on there. We didn't need to stretch that out over 4 episodes.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like we kind of need to see how it ends, right? To figure out like what details we're missing that's happening in these episodes that we're not thinking are that important until it kind of all gets wrapped together at the end, right?
I'm open-minded about it. The ending could make it all worthwhile. I agree with you. I'm very excited.
Is Jason Isaacs a good guy or a bad guy in this show?
He's a pill popper.
But is he a good guy or a bad guy? Because
everyone sort of operates in the gray in White Lotus.
No, but he's a defrauder.
He's a person who's committed crimes, it appears.
That he wasn't really the driving force on, but was talked into, but still committed the crime.
We don't know a lot about him, but I think you can deduce, like,
the world is closing in on him.
Spiritually in his soul, or do you mean like his action? You know, like we could get deep about
it.
it.
It's someone who's done wrong that you seemingly are finding yourself possibly rooting for.
I can never root for Jason Isaacs. Just like there are certain roles that actors play that they are never going to break the stigma associated with that character.
The Patriot.
I mean, dude is a metal stand scumbag. Just pure evil. Do you know how hard it is for me to watch a movie and you're like sharing scenes with Mel Gibson and I'm like, you're the asshole.
He's the bad guy.
Is the word association for typecast George Costanza? Like, is there a better one than that? Just like someone that couldn't
Jason
work.
Alexander?
Oscar the Grouch.
Someone that couldn't work. That's true.
You want to read?
Cookie Monster.
You want to hear some Isaac's quotes here to bring the show full circle on what we were talking about at the beginning? Because
I found these quotes to be absurd, frankly.
Right? So absurd, but also wonderful because he's getting backlash online because he shut down a question about wearing a prosthetic penis in the full frontal scene on CBS Mornings. Quote, a lot of people are debating it. It's all over the internet. He says he's not going to talk anymore about it. Quote, and it's interesting because the best actress this year is Mikey Madison at the Oscars, and I don't see anybody discussing her vulva, which was on the screen all the time. It's interesting that there's a double standard for men.
Okay. I don't even know where to begin because the nudity in Anora was one of the most hotly contested items of internet discourse for weeks after the Oscars. But also, you just did bring up her vulva, so now we are talking about it.
He kept going, but when women are naked, Margaret Qualley as well in The Substance, nobody would dream of talking to her about her genitalia, her nipples, or any of those things. So it's odd that there's a double standard. He's getting tired of being asked whether it was a prosthetic.
But it wasn't it?
Yes.
And
that's
most
where it
women
started.
don't wear prosthetics when they're nude in scenes. And also Hollywood has been making women be nude for a lot longer than we've had constant male nudity, which we talked about to start the show. I just find this whole thing very, very strange. Just stop.
I would think also strange, though, is just Goggins having to do that scene in front of his friends. Like, it's got all those scenes have to be hard to do they not?
You're worried about Walton, right? You don't want to call him Walter? Is that what it is?
It's Walton.
I can't just use his last name?